Hello. Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Spoilers. I'm going to talk about how I do some things behind the scenes in my games. If you are in a game that I have run or am running or will run, you might want to keep some of the magic intact. Or you might not. Up to you. I like it when a game starts out simply. I like it when I lay down an elementary opening to a classic plot. You have seen it 100 times before. You got it straight out of the back of the original DMG, or you rolled it up in 76 patrons, or you just the start of a story. There's a monster over there that is threatening villagers. Maybe you want to kill it. Someone's been kidnapped. There's been a robbery. Stuff needs to get taken care of. There's a problem that needs solving. You might want to go solve it. You usually make it a problem that the party has some interest in solving. If your party has been good enough to give you hooks, and they really should have, they're making their characters properly, well, your character has an interest in this area. Oh, that person your character is related to is endangered. This one thing that your character can't resist going after is over there on the other side of the bad guy. They have a motive, they have a simple thing to do, and they go do it. This is not where I fudge. There is no reason to fudge this. This is an elementary thing. But it's simple. Now, there is nothing wrong with simple storytelling. There is nothing wrong with a linear adventure where you go from point A to point B to point C and deal with all of the encounters along the way, even your very complicated dungeons from the 80s or so. Were bullet points, things that you go to this room and then you go to this room and then you go to this room and you deal with stuff in turn, and eventually you get to the big bad at the end, or the giant trap, or the big artifact, and you solve the puzzle or kill the monster, and then you're done. You collect your experience, you scoop all the treasure into a bag of holding, and you go back home to split it up. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't ever let anyone tell you that there is. I have done 100 adventures like that. Probably more. I had to think about how many it may have been, and, it's a lot. Adventures generally don't come with many more complications than that. But adventurers do. I, as a game master, do not need to complicate a situation. I can keep things as straight and narrow and simple as possible. I don't need to complicate a situation because there are players at that table, and I tell you howdy, those players are going to complicate things. Maybe, just maybe, you have a group of people at that table with their heads down and their dice in their fist and their figure out on the map, and they're going from point A to point B, and that is what they want to do. That's not going to be the whole group. If you have a whole group of people like that, more power to you. You have some linear adventures and you kill monsters. You be warriors for justice and fire. That's absolutely amazing. Then there's that one guy in the back. Well, everyone walked past that idol with the obvious trap on the side. Can I trigger that trap with a rope and see what happens from a distance? I just want to see what happens. It's that. It's the, well, could we divide the loot up now because I think I could use that better than you can guy. It's the person who, well, we can go we can go fight the monster, but why don't we talk to the villagers and see if there's any legends or rumors about it? Does anyone know about anything around this castle that might be a clue to a different way in? It's when the players have the characters start looking for non-linear solutions that I fudge. It's not written down. I hadn't planned there to be a non-linear solution at this point in time. But sure, let's go with this. Let's see if there is a non-linear solution to this perfectly linear problem. A lot of games reward you by the number of monsters you kill. Old D&D is famous for this. You get XP for the monsters you kill, or disable, or what have you. I also personally give XP for the fights that you avoid through guile and ingenuity, because you didn't defeat the monster, but you used your noggin and you solved the problem of the monster without having to put yourself in danger. That also will net you experience, because experience is just a term for gained wisdom. For displaying the wisdom to bypass a fight, that's worth points. That is absolutely worth points. So I reward attempts to solve problems, to go on the adventure in a non-linear fashion. Non-linear. Not easy. Is there a secret passage? There is. No one knows the key code that gets you in. It's some old rune, but that might be at the wizard's hut down the hill. He doesn't talk to people much, but you might be able to work something out with him. Oh, yeah, there's a rumor about a artifact that might get you to the center of this dungeon faster. There's a computer code on the space station. You might not be able to get into the complex using any codes that are on the planet, but they stowed an extra case of the codes on their space station. So maybe if you can get to that, there's no, it's not on the network for God's sake, but if you can get there and get a hardwire connection on the space station, maybe you can get the codes that will open up the reactor room. I don't know how you're going to get to the space station. I'm just telling you what's there. How do you want to get to the space station? You guys have skills on those sheets. Note, if you manage to get your characters into space accidentally, or as a part of an event that is not part of the module that was planned, you are aces in my book. Anyone who can get a character into space when that wasn't the plan, when you've got people floating in 0G in the back of the shuttle trying to figure out how to operate the toilet, looking at each other going, what were we supposed to be doing again? Then yeah, that's where you go. I fudge in the complications. I keep the complications interesting. And yes, you can try and get around the complications. That's just gonna, be complicated. Linear storytelling is fine. Complicated storytelling is fun. I keep a mental checklist. Sometimes I have to write it down. More times than not, I have to write it down. Of what needs to get dealt with in order to get to the end point of this. There is a goal. There's a thing that's got to be taken care of. There's point A to point B to point C. But sometimes you can lead the party to go to point C via point kumquat or point zebra. And those are good games. Everyone has a good time on the linear adventure, but everyone talks about the complicated one forever. I do not need to fudge this, but this is my best tool for fudging. When things come down to how complicated things, am I going to succeed or fail? Are we going to live or die? What are my chances? When it comes down to the die roll, and sometimes it can take a while to come down to a die roll, because I will put a terrible situation on the table. I'll put a terrible situation on the table. I will put minuses on that. There will be penalties for getting this thing done when everyone's going to die if you don't. Then I sit back and I let the player's ingenuity work for a while. What bonuses can I stack up? Can I use something else to an advantage? Can we work together on part of this? Can I use this artifact that wasn't meant to be used for this, but in a way that it wasn't meant to be used, and maybe just get another little bit of a bonus? Can I get my chances to 50-50 for God's sake? Just a 10 or less, please. Then this rolls. This rolls in the middle of the table. This rolls in front of everyone, where that number is going to come up. Succeed or fail, everyone knows. Now, if that's succeed, that's amazing. That's amazing. They managed to do it, and that is a time that people jump up and shout. That is a time you get fist pumps and yells, and it's amazing because you worked for it. If this fails, that does not mean a loss. That means that that situation is not going the way the player characters want that situation to go. There is probably a stated consequence, and that consequence will happen, and then there may be more rolls to deal with that consequence, but that consequence can also come in the form of a complication. This makes things much harder now. Well, now that spacesuit is not going to be able to stand up to vacuum. That trap has been triggered. You guys might not all fall into the pit, but now you've got a 20-foot pit to cross if you want to get to the rest of the dungeon. That complication, that disruption in storytelling, leads to nonlinear thinking on the other side of the screen. The players start to look for solutions to problems that, quite frankly, they have probably created. By taking a chance and not quite making the die roll. The more die rolls you have like that in a game, the greater the chance the players are going to create a complication. I cannot say this and emphasize it enough. The players create complications. Someone wants to engage in nonlinear thinking. That's amazing. There are skills on that sheet that far exceed swinging a hammer or firing a bow or poking with a sword. You've got tool sets that can be used, and you've got acrobatics and persuasion and insight and all these different things that are all there for solving different problems. And maybe this problem doesn't call for that solution, but can I try and use this solution to solve that problem anyway? And that is a complication. Yes, you can give it a try. It won't be easy. Stack your bonuses. Let's see what you can do. The more complicated things get as the result of the player's attempts to solve these problems through nonlinear means. One, the more invested your players are. Your players get very invested when their characters jump out of that two-dimensional I hit it mentality and start using things that aren't battle of the weak tactics. I have this advantage. I've got these merits. I've got these feats on my sheet. How can I use them to get past this situation? You give them problems that are not necessarily the linear, I hit at problems. I solve the trap. I hit the monster. I lift the bars and bend the gates. Maybe you throw them a social situation. You've got to get this information from this spy. You've got to talk to these people in the town. You've got to convince the children they're not in danger anymore. You give them things that give them that opportunity so they see these things on their sheet, and then you cross connect. Yeah, well, maybe you can try to talk this out over here. Maybe you can try and use your lock picking skills to fix the music box. It's not something you've ever done before, but it's all tumblers and gears, right? Why don't you give it a try? The characters come alive because their ability to solve problems through different means makes the players run the character. How would the character solve this? Would the character think of that? How is the character thinking of this? What would it look like if my character tried to do this? How awful would it be if my character failed at this? How awesome would it be if my character succeeded? And for every success, a victory. Fist pumps and yells, and for every failure, another complication. Oh, that's broken now. Someone else is going to have to take a swing at that. I don't know if anyone here has got the skills for dealing with it, but you got skills kind of like that. Anyone want to give it a try? That's extremely valuable, and now people aren't going to have access to it. You might be able to convince the auction house that it's some kind of other artifact. I don't know. You want to give it a roll? Or my favorite, this is a terrible situation. I don't know. Anyone got any ideas? I adjudicate failures more harshly as there is more tension in the situation. As you know, it's a simple situation and you've got all the time in the world to try this thing. Oh, you failed the roll, you broke the thing. You're going to have to try and fix it and make the roll again. Or you'll have to go find another one. You don't have that anymore. No, you missed the monster. It's its turn to swing. As things ramp up, as there's more stuff happening, as their stakes get higher, as lives are on the line, or reputations, or honor, as people get a little bit more invested, that thing is broken and the fire that it has started is catching in the curtains. Does anyone want to try and put that out? That might cause an explosion. How far out of town do you think you can get that? You don't think that you missed the monster, but you hit the hostage behind it. You're going to need to give them first aid within about 3 rounds, or they're not going to make it. Monster's still there. What are you going to do? And by introducing more complications and more consequences, harsher consequences that involve more complications as the adventure goes on, collateral damage gets involved, things catch on fire. Well, you started off just trying to kill this dragon, but now this castle has an artifact in it that is going to blow everything within a 50-mile radius straight to hell. Literally, hell's going to show up right here in the middle of that village down the road. What are you guys going to do? I will ramp this up to the point where chaos and blood raining from the sky, literally yesterday, blood raining from the sky, and clouds of toxins about to pour over the land, rivers being diverted the wrong direction, skeletons running around with chainsaws lashed to their heads. people looking around trying to figure out how they can possibly get out of this, and bending their brains to find those non-linear solutions, or the linear solution, any solution to the saying, oh my god, can we build a bomb big enough at this point in time? No, that's how we got here. Can we build an anti-bomb or something? When people are at that point, I put the die down. I might put a bookmark in the book that I'm referencing, close it up, look at the players. I get to say this on a regular basis, and it's kind of amazing. I say, do you all realize none of this was my fault? And you watch those people take credit for the consequences of their attempts to complicate the situation. Now, I call this fudging. I call this manipulation of the situation, because those consequences, those are all my decisions. Yeah. What happens here? But I try to display every step of the way that what has happened here is a natural consequences of the actions that have been taken and the results of their success or failure. We accidentally at war with Sweden is a really good example of this. Well, you all dogpiled on, and everyone made the situation a little bit worse, and it snowballed, and now America's at war with Sweden. I didn't do this. I didn't do any of this. I gave you guys a situation, and each one of you decided you were going to turn this up a little bit, and, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault should be the Game Master's mantra. In a linear adventure, it's the Game Master's fault. You brought this adventure. This is the plan that you had. That's the thing that's got to be dealt with. And whatever happens to those player characters at that point is your fault, because you are there representing the opposition. And it should be your fault if something happens to the player's character. That's perfectly fine. As things get more complicated, the Game Master gets to sit back and relax a little bit and chant, "This was not my fault." Now, on the one hand, that places an onus on the players, that they have done something. Perhaps maybe they've done something wrong, which is not necessarily the case. They have tried to take actions in this fictional world which had a good or bad chance of success, and these are the consequences of them perhaps taking actions that were rash or that they were not properly prepared or equipped for, and this is what happens. That's natural. At the same time, this gives the players agency with their characters. Yeah, there's a linear path here. There's a very clear linear path. The ability to depart from that path as they choose is agency. That is the players displaying that the characters have free will, and success or failure, consequences or not, blue skies or blood falling from the heaven on fire to congeal on the ground inches thick. The players can own that. And when the players have that purchase of the real estate, when they have that foot on ground that they have bought with their decisions and their involvement, it's a win. Everyone walks away from that owning a piece of a story that they made and that they will own forever. That is one of the main ingredients of a story that you will be telling 10 years later. That story that you sit around and you start talking about things, and someone says, you remember that one time, and you are off for 2 hours recounting the story. Because the players had agency, because they had the chance to take the simple linear path, and they elected not to. For good or ill, it's for good, because at the end of it, it's a story. And that, more than anything else, is what you're there to get, in my opinion. Well, thanks for following me along with this particular rant into game mastery techniques and how I fudge. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have your own experiences with non-linear storytelling, or how your games have run, or players that have accidentally lit the world on fire, things you want to hear me talk about, go ahead and leave me a comment. I will love getting a comment. You will love leaving me one. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, why not? My channel is awesome. But go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you do hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button so you are alerted as soon as I put out a new video. If you'd like to help out in a more personal manner, I invite you to hit me up on my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you again. My name is Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.